are recording, and we are live on Facebook group. All right, cool. Welcome everybody who is here live, and welcome to anybody afterwards who's watching the replay. Most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Sampey, more commonly known as Eliza or Liz, and I am a doctor of physical therapy, and I do integrative adventure coaching, weaving in body, mind, life, logistics, and skills to help people reach their goals and their adventures and help create their lives to support the adventures that they want to go on. So I'm also a professional endurance athlete. I do ultra endurance mountain bike racing, and pack rafter, rock climber, alpine runner, integrated skier. Do a lot of body, mind, life, and logistics and skills to help people reach. Oh, Michelle, can you put yourself on mute? There we go. Okay. I think that's better. Okay, so Michelle asked me to come and do the session today to chat about neck pain with mountain biking and about helmets specifically, and helmet fit, and all sorts of things like that. So I wrote up a little outline that I'm going to refer to. Most of you all know that I had a concussion recently, and while I am doing much better than I was, sometimes I do still tend to forget things. So I've made myself an outline so I don't get off track. I also occasionally will forget words. So if I forget a word, I will probably try to talk around it, and it might seem kind of silly, but hey, that's just kind of life right now. So if everybody that is here live, have any of you had neck pain on the bike, either road bike or mountain bike? Yeah, raise your hand or put something in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually am in physical therapy, and she helped me with some stuff today. So neck and shoulders are a really big issue for me. Okay.
And is it specific to riding, or is it kind of all the time?
So it usually, it usually kicks in after like a really intense mountain bike ride. Previously, I was a long distance tourer, and it kind of just, it's just with age and my recovery just doesn't seem to be as quick as it was like 20 years ago. So yeah, a lot of stiffness, and it goes up the sides and then eventually turns into a headache that like lasts for the rest of the day.
Yep.
So that's
I know
my
that
major issue.
Yeah, right on. How about anyone else? What else? Neck pain, headaches related to riding?
Yes, all the time. I'm just starting to be able to ride again. And I'm recovering from a concussion to a pretty good one. So I'm just starting to get back into activity again. And I changed my handlebars, so I'm right now, and that's kind of helped, but also working on some strengthening and stuff in physical therapy. And I also get the, if something's too tight on the back of my head, it'll cause like a headache and pressure as well.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely feel you on that one. I'm working through the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Neck pain on the bike? I want to share your experiences. Amy, I think you're talking, but you're on mute.
You're mute.
Oh, let's see.
I'm unmuting. It's kind of the same thing as everybody else, and definitely on multiple days. If I ride for more than one day, long rides, it's that whole headache, neck pain thing. If I push it even past that, I start to get some hand pain and stuff like that. So it limits me. And I just listen to it and then go back to my stretching and strengthening and then continue on. But I've always dealt with it. I just feel like it's a part of biking at this point. And so I'm always looking for strategies of like, how can I make it better? But that's it.
I do have a question. See, this is my helmet. I want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a MIP. I only have an issue with the MIP. So we're supposed to move around more, right? Supposed to be like happy with like a rack. But so if I don't tighten it, like it moves so much going downhill, it just covers. Then I have to like look it up. But if you tighten it too much, so they won't move. So it doesn't move. But after I take it off riding, it leaves like a really embedded mark in here. And then it's kind of giving me headache that you were mentioning on one of your Facebook stories. So that's when I realized I have the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Okay. And we'll definitely address that at the end. When we do questions, we will look specifically at, you guys who are here live, we can look specifically at your helmets, at your movement patterns, at any of the issues that you have. So let's pin that for the end. But yeah, that's good to know. And that definitely does look like it's hard to see with that helmet that's over your eyes. So, okay. Let's go ahead and begin so we don't have feedback. All right, so I've definitely also had neck pain on the bike. I was a road bike racer for 6 years before I started riding mountain bikes. And that was a constant struggle that I had, as well as a lot of my teammates and my competitors that I knew from road biking. Then I didn't have neck pain for a long time because I became a physical therapist and I learned all of the things that cause neck pain and how to prevent it and how to alleviate it. And then with my concussion that I had in October, I've started to have it again. So, it's something that I've been really kind of diving into a lot more recently than I have in quite a while. Of course, with physical therapy and my coaching, I do treat a lot of people that have neck pain on the bike specifically. So there are two main kind of categories of causes of neck pain with cycling and mountain biking. So one category is it's a mechanical problem, and the second category is it's a functional problem. Okay, so I'm going to explain the difference between those. So a mechanical problem can be three different things. So a poor fitting helmet, or a helmet that's too heavy, poor bike fit, or poor body mechanics when you're riding. Okay, so those are all three of the mechanical causes of neck pain. And then we have functional causes of neck pain, and those include impaired mobility in your neck, shoulders, chest area, and upper back. Okay, so especially on the bike, because of the position that our head and our neck are in, our shoulder blades and our shoulders and our upper back have a lot more to do with our neck than we realize. So if we have impaired mobility in any of those areas, that can give us neck pain and/or headaches. Now, mobility isn't just muscles, right? So I think, talk about mobility, a lot of people think I'm just talking about stretching or muscle tightness. It also has to do with joint mobility. So the way that the joint is moving within itself, does that joint have space to move the way that it needs to? And do you have range of motion? So, especially with mountain biking, but also with road biking, like we're moving all over the place. We're pushing our bikes out from under us to do maneuvers. We're moving like this, or, so, and especially, if we're doing any hike-a-bike, we're also having to do a lot of movement. So if we don't have the joint mobility and the range of motion, that can give us pain. So mobility of the muscles and mobility of the joints. Or it can be impaired stability in our neck, our shoulders, or our upper back. So stability is a combination of two things. It's a combination of strength and a combination of motor control. So strength, everybody knows what that is, right? Like that's our body's ability to do work, or our muscles' ability to produce a force. Motor control is our brain's ability to tell our body how to move, or to tell a muscle how and when to fire. Okay, so I can use my brain right now to tell my hand to make a fist. So that is motor control. Strength would be how much grip strength do I have in this fist? Could I break a glass with my fist? Could I crush a leaf with my fist? Okay, like that's strength. But motor control is my brain's ability to say, hand, make a fist. Okay, so that's a really easy example, but that really does play a huge role in all of our movements, whether our movement patterns are healthy and they're going to train us into function, or if they're unhealthy and they're going to train us into dysfunction. Okay, so stability includes both the strength and the motor control. And if either of those are impaired or they're out of alignment, that can cause neck pain also. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about each one of those causes. And the first one that we will go into is the helmet. So first mechanical problem, poor fit of your helmet, or a helmet that's too heavy. So there are a ton of helmets out there on the market. There's a ton of you know, research and development going into helmets. There's a lot of different technologies like MIPS, like Michelle was talking about, and there's a new one called wave cell. A lot of those technologies are looking good in the research, but some of the research on that, quite a bit of the research is pretty inconclusive that the MIPS or the wave cell are actually any better than, you know, just a regular helmet that fits the guidelines that, you know, don't have those two specific technologies. Some helmet companies have their own proprietary technologies. A lot of helmet companies do, and, you know, the research is pretty inconclusive on those. So that is a personal decision. However, I will say that it doesn't matter how, you know, new and improved and exciting the technology is if the helmet doesn't fit your head properly. So that makes the most difference. All right. So I personally have kind of a strangely shaped head. I tried, I don't even know how many helmets that, you know, most of them, I guess my head must be somewhat like oblong because the helmets would push me here, and here there'd be a lot of space. And that was pretty much like across the board with most of the helmets I tried. It just didn't fit my head. So it's kind of similar to what Michelle was describing. You know, if I tighten the helmet enough so that it would actually save my head, it would give me a lot of, you know, headaches. And if I didn't tighten it so much that it wasn't giving me a headache, it would, you know, be all over the place on my head. And I really felt like it just wasn't a good fit. So it's most important to find a helmet that actually fits your head well and that you feel like, you know, gives you even pressure all around the band of the helmet. And ideally one that doesn't stick up like too far above your head, all right? So here's the other thing about helmets and concussion, okay? Most of the research, there's been a couple studies here and there, but most of the research shows that helmets don't actually prevent concussion because the mechanism that causes a concussion or a brain injury is the shearing force on the axons of the brain. So our brain moves inside of our skull. And when those axons shear, that causes a concussion, and the helmet does not stop the brain from shearing inside of the skull. What the helmet does stop from happening is cracking our head open when we crash, which is a good thing, obviously. So that speaks to fit. And then in terms of like wear of the helmet, so I'll show you the two helmets that I have currently and kind of use that to demonstrate how they should fit. So this is my road helmet, which I also use for racing. And so we want our helmet to fit. So right now I've just got the helmet sitting on my head and it's not tight at all. It's just sitting there. And if I have not done that since my concussion, so I'm doing this for y'all. If I shake face, right, my helmet's not all over the place. And if I, you know, go like this, my helmet's not all over the place. And if I stand up and go like this, my helmet does not fall into my hand, okay? So it's not buckled, it's not tight, it's just sitting on my head. And I can go like this and the helmet does not fall into my hand. Okay, so right off the bat, that's a pretty darn good fit for the helmet, all right? So then I wanna snug it up, and as I'm snugging, it just feels like it's evenly giving pressure all around my head. And you don't want to snug it too tight, obviously. You don't want to give yourself a headache. But if the helmet is well-fitting, like I just showed you, then you shouldn't have to snug it super tight. So I snug it up, and then I move my voluptuous earrings, which I do wear riding, by the way. It's kind of my jam. And I snap it down. And there we go. So again, like you shouldn't have to choke yourself with your helmet strap, right? Like it's touching my chin. It's not like dangling below, but it's definitely not like, you know, choking me. Like I can fully open my mouth with my helmet strap there, and that's not uncomfortable, okay? So, you know, overarching theme here, the helmet should fit well enough that you don't have to over tighten it with a ratchet or over tighten it here on the chin strap. And then in terms of where you want to wear it, I'm going to go real close here. You do want the helmet to come just above your eyebrows, because if your helmet is sitting back here on your head, I don't know if any of you have ever crashed your mountain bike and fallen forward and hit your head, but you know, most mountain bike crashes are either forward or off to the side and forward. You know, they're typically not just straight over to the side, or if they are, we're going a slow enough speed that we can probably protect our heads, right? The high speed mountain bike crashes are typically not straight over to the side, and they're typically not straight backwards, although that has happened to me. most bike crashes are forward and to the side. And so if our helmet is up like this, we're gonna hit our head and we're gonna crack our head open and that's gonna stop, okay? So we definitely want our helmet. This is something that I see with a lot of beginner riders that I see on the trail, and I always wanna stop them and tell them, and sometimes I do, but I hate feeling like a know-it-all, but it's really a safety thing. I see beginners riding, you know, with their helmets back like this, and unless you're lucky enough to fall backwards and land here, like your helmet's not going to save you. All right, so we do want the helmets to be just above the eyebrows. Now that being said, like with Michelle's helmet, you know, I really think that helmet's too big for you, likely because, you know, it's falling down over your eyebrows and obscuring your vision unless you're snugging it way, way down. So I'll show you my other helmet that has a visor. This helmet here is my everyday play mountain bike helmet. And again, same thing, like I haven't tightened it. I can move it side to side, I can move it up and down. I can stand up and go like this and the helmet doesn't fall into my head. Okay, so, you know, it's already just fitting me nicely. So I'm gonna snug it up a little bit and tighten the strap. The strap's a little bit looser, but that's just the way it is. Oh, this one's new. This is the helmet they sent me after my concussion, so I haven't trimmed the straps yet. I haven't really ridden much since my concussion. So again, with this one, you can see that it's right above my eyebrows where the actual helmet comes. And this visor, and most mountain bike visors have this, they have like multiple positions. So, I mean, I can ride like this, or I can be here or here. Now, I typically ride with it like this, but if I turn to the side, like this visor is not, it doesn't stick out super huge, right? Like if I'm in a bicycle position like this, I don't have to crank my head way up in order to see. Like I can just kind of look with my eyes. And, you know, when we're riding, we do want to be able to see down the trail, right? Because one of the primary mountain bike skills is line selection. And to do that, we need to be able to kind of like ping pong our eyeballs between what's coming up now, or, you know, what we're about to ride over, and then what's coming up next. And if we're going really fast, what's coming up next might be, you know, quite a ways ahead. So being able to, like, you know, to ping pong your eyes between now, next, without having to move your head is really important. So if your visor is big enough that you're not able to do that, maybe get another helmet, or you could just, you know, pull the visor up like this. So that is helmets in a nutshell, or in a head shell, if you will. Any specific questions on helmets? I think, Michelle, I kind of answered yours already with that.
How do you know if it's too heavy?
How do you know if it's too heavy? So, oh, right, that was the other thing I was going to talk about. So kind of is a personal thing. So most helmets these days are pretty light, but there are certainly some out there that are really heavy. I have trouble if I wear a full face helmet. I don't wear full faces too often, but if I'm downhilling or when I used to race enduro, I wore full faces, and I certainly like would get pretty sore in the neck after that. I do wear, when I'm racing ultra endurance bike packing, I have a light that is on my helmet. I wish I would have actually, oh, actually I did have it. So right here, oh, here it is. Here's my light. And this light literally just sits on my helmet like this. Okay, so I don't have a light, and this is actually kind of an important thing if any of you night ride. I don't have a light that sticks way up here, because if it does, A, that's more weight because there's a big thing that you have to, that's underneath the light, and it's also more leverage. So if the light's kind of bobbing around on your helmet, that's a lot of leverage then on your head and your neck. So I have this little flashlight. This is the Phoenix PD35 for anybody who's interested, and it's amazing. And it literally just sits right here in the vents of my helmet, and I just Velcro it in. It's so high tech. And when, I mean, you know, it's pretty light, but it does add some weight. And so when I started bike pack racing, I had to get my neck used to having this light on my helmet, because I don't want to take the time to stop and take the light off every day and then put the light on every night. Like with racing, it's, you know, minutes count. And so what I had to do, and this is, you know, kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, but what I had to do is train my neck muscles and train my shoulder blade muscles so that they were able to support that heavier, you know, helmet essentially with that light on top of the head. So that's definitely something that you can work on with training, but, you know, also you could just potentially get a lighter helmet. So it's kind of, you know, personal preference on that one, but thanks for asking. I forgot about that. Any other helmet questions before we move on to bike fit and body mechanics? Okay, cool. So bike fit. There aren't a lot of specific things to say about bike fit, except for the fact that if your bike doesn't fit you well, that can just cause all sorts of pain and problems in your body. So if you're too stretched out, and you're like, you know, you're like reaching for your bars and you're super stretched out, like that's just not, I'm actually gonna take this flannel off so that you guys can see my shoulder blades video. If you're really stretched out here, like see how much my arms are having to reach, and you know, shoulders affect the neck. So if my shoulders are being pulled really far, then my neck is going to have to kink up a lot more. Okay. Or if I'm too upright, being too upright typically isn't super hard on your neck. It's definitely a more preferable position for your neck. But if you're riding a bike where, like, say the frame size is too small and you're really upright, that can affect your handling. And so again, that's a little bit of personal preference as well. I have a road racing background, and I also have a long torso, so I tend to prefer like a longer mountain bike where I am a little bit more stretched out. But again, my body's used to that. So I've got the range of motion, I've got the mobility, you know, and that's something that I'm used to. I do have friends who prefer to ride a smaller sized frame just so they're a little bit more upright and less stretched out, because it is a little bit easier on your neck. So again, personal preference and trade-offs. But with anything in your body, you always want to look at bike fit. The other thing is, if your handlebars are too wide, that's a huge thing in mountain biking these days. I don't know if it's still such an obsession, but in mountain biking, we used to be obsessed with really wide bars, like 800 millimeter bars. For someone like me, I'm 5'2" and 120 pounds, you know, like I don't need 800 millimeter bars. You know, wide handlebars are good for handling, but you know, I'm riding like 760s, you know, and that's great for me. So 800 millimeters is way too big. So when we're cutting our handlebars, and if we're in a downhill position, we don't want to be like way out like this, okay? We want to be more like at a 90-degree angle. We don't want to be in like this either. So if I'm holding on to handlebars, you know, we don't want our elbows super bent, but we don't want them extended much more than 90 degrees. A little bit is okay, but if we're way out here, like a tiny person with super wide handlebars, that will give you neck pain 100%. So that's kind of one of the first things that I would look at, especially if you're a small person with wide bars and you're getting neck pain. That just puts you in a really bad like body position for your upper body. On the subject of bars, actually, something that I have been doing for the last handful of years, not necessarily for neck, but for me, I have chronic wrist tendonitis. I use a handlebar called the Flex mountain bike bars from a company called Fast Company. And what those have is little elastomers in the handlebars. So it's like micro suspension in the bars. And what it does is it helps to like alleviate the micro trauma that comes from bike riding. And it has made like a huge difference for me. And so that, you know, that helps with micro trauma in the upper extremity, in the neck, you know, so if you're trying a lot of things and you're finding you're still having a lot of neck pain, like those bars have literally been a lifesaver for me. I would not be able to do long rides on technical terrain if I didn't have those bars. And they're not super cheap, but they're definitely worth it. And they don't affect handling. So when I'm riding, I don't even know like I can't even tell the difference in my riding. The only way I can tell the difference is that I don't have wrist pain. And if I ride, you know, so my hardtail that I race on smoother terrain doesn't have those bars. And if I'm riding that bike on technical terrain, I will get wrist pain during and afterwards. So that's, you know, how I can tell the difference. So that's just a little thing where, you know, if you are struggling with chronic pain, either in your neck or anywhere in your upper extremity when you're riding, those handlebars could be worth checking out for sure. Okay, body mechanics when riding. Okay, so this gets a little bit into that motor control piece that I was talking about. So body mechanics is a mechanical issue, but then it also, like when we have poor motor control, we have bad body mechanics on the bike. So what we want to do when we are riding, I wish I could like get on my trainer and show you. I actually kind of could. My trainer's in the corner. There it is. But what we want to do when we're riding, and this is either road bike or mountain bike, is we want to make sure, and I'm going to kind of just, you know, get myself into like a biking kind of coasting position here. Let's tilt this down slightly. Okay. Y'all see my upper body okay? Okay, so when we're riding a mountain bike, we want to make sure that our elbows are not stiff and straight, okay? And that's the same thing on a road bike. If we're riding like this, like not only is that going to be a lot of like shock that's going through our joints, and it's also going to throw off our handling, right? Like if you think about like a floor lamp, a tall floor lamp that's like tall and stiff and straight, it's easy to push over, okay? And that's what we're like if we're on a mountain bike and we have really stiff, straight arms, okay? So we want our elbows bent. The other thing that it does, so it's bad for handling, it puts a lot of shock up through our arms, and it also is hard on our neck because if we are stiff and straight in our arms, we also do this with our shoulders, okay? So any stiffness in the body is going to promote stiffness all the way up the chain. So we want to have our elbows nice and loose. We also don't want to be gripping the bars with a death grip, okay? Like obviously we want to hang on. We don't want to just fall off our bikes. But if we're death gripping the bars and we're putting too much weight in our handlebars, that can definitely cause neck pain and bike handling issues. And so we really want to kind of go back to our basic mountain bike skills and body mechanics and make sure that when we are, you know, riding our bike, like when we're pedaling, if we're sitting in the saddle and we're pedaling, that our weight is on our butts, okay, and in our pedals, and that our arms are just light on the bars and just, you know, hang on enough to be able to stay on the bike and maneuver the bike and get through the technical terrain if you're climbing technical terrain. And then when we're coasting on flats or going downhill, we really want to have our weight centered over our cranks. So if you can think about it, if you're coasting on the bike, what I like to do is I almost think that I could let go of my bars for just a split second and I shouldn't fall forward, okay? So obviously, you know, if I'm riding and I let go for a long time, I probably will fall off if I'm standing on my pedals, but I should be light enough on the bars that I could let go for a microsecond and I'm balanced over the crank. My center of gravity and my center of mass is balanced over the crank, okay? If it's not, and if you were to let go a little bit on your bars, you would just fall onto your bars. You're putting too much weight into your handlebars, and that can definitely cause neck pain. The other thing that's super important in body mechanics when riding is you want to have your shoulders gently lower down your back, okay? And so a lot of us, when we are afraid, like if we're riding something that is super challenging and we're nervous, or when we're tired, we've been out all day and we're just freaking tired, we tend to like pull our shoulders up to our ears a little bit, okay? Now I'm really exaggerating, but I do see people do this. But you know, sometimes even it's just a little bit. And what that does, I'll come a little closer so you can see, what that does is it activates this muscle up here called the upper trapezius. And the upper trapezius is overactive in most people anyway, right? Like most of us sit at our computers all day, or we, you know, are running around all day, whatever we're doing for work, and we get this, we get into this posture where our upper trapezius muscles are just activated, okay? And a lot of us, whenever we use our upper body, the upper trapezius engages first and really pulls our shoulder up. So we all have overactive upper traps anyway. And if we're on the bike and our upper traps are activated all the time, that is attached right up here at the base of the skull, okay? So that is, you know, I see it here in my shoulder, but that's actually a neck muscle. And so if that gets really tight and engaged, that can give us neck pain and or that can give us headaches. So what is really important to do, and this is going to get into that motor control component that I was talking about, is we want to focus on the stabilizing muscles attached to our shoulder blades. Now there's a lot of them and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the muscles that are attached to the inside of the shoulder blade, okay, we want to gently engage them, pulling them together and down the back just slightly, okay? Now when we're doing that for like riding the bike, we don't want to always be like that, okay, because that doesn't feel great either. But we want to gently engage our shoulder blades down our back, okay? And then if we're on our mountain bike and we like riding technical terrain and we're like, you know, pushing the bike and moving it out from under us, we want to have the mobility in our upper back to like let those shoulder blades go for a bit and you know, push the bike and pull the bike back and like have that mobility to put the bike where you want it to go. But if we're, you know, just pedaling, we want to make sure that our shoulder blades are gently pulled down our back so that our upper traps aren't doing all of the work, okay? So that's that motor control, is using our brain to tell our shoulder blades to pull down the back activate. And what that does is it stabilizes the shoulder joint, and it stabilizes the neck, and it stabilizes what's called the cervicothoracic junction. So that like junction between your neck and your back right there. So shoulder blades pulling gently down your back, upper traps relaxed, elbows relaxed, head tilted up just enough so that you can see what's in front of you, and pinball your eyes between the now and the next. Light on the hands, light on the handlebars, feet and weight centered over the cranks. I know that's a lot of stuff, but you guys are going to get the recording. So if you want to go back through it, you can. So that is everything I'm thinking about right now with body mechanics. Anyone have any questions about that? Cool. Pretty straightforward.
Oh, I have a quick question about those mountain bar handlebars that you mentioned with the, what brand are they?
They're called Fast Company. It's F-A-S-S-T Company.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and they're called Flex mountain bike bars. Yeah, they're a lifesaver. Okay, let me think if there's any other mechanical stuff. Backpacks can definitely cause neck pain. Like if we're wearing a backpack and it's too heavy. I started putting, this was quite a while ago, I started putting bike packing bags on my bike, even when I'm not bike packing, like not the whole, the whole kit, but like a little frame bag or a little top tube bag, so that I can put the majority of what I want to carry with me on a day ride in my bike, because it's a lot easier to pedal the weight that's underneath you than to have it on your back. And so for me, when I do wear a backpack on a lot of mountain bike rides, but I don't really have that much in it usually. And so if you're somebody that usually wears a really heavy backpack, you might want to think about getting a little frame bag or a little top tube bag and putting your heavier things in your bike instead of on your back. Okay. I might think of other things as we go, but let's move on to the mobility and stability stuff. So, grab my chair. Okay. So we already talked a little bit about stability with the shoulder blade stabilization, and so it's really important that the muscles that are our scapular stabilizers are strong, right? Because if we're going to activate them and ask them to work and let our upper traps have a rest, they definitely need to be strong enough to do that. So strengthening the shoulder blade and the upper back muscles are super important. Another thing that's important for strengthening, especially with people who have headaches and neck pain already, is something called our deep neck flexor muscles. Again, there's a lot of them, but they're essentially like in here. So flexion of the neck is this direction, extension of the neck is this direction, okay? And especially people that spend a lot of time on the bike, we're in neck extension a lot, okay? So the joints in the back of our neck can get kind of compressed, and the muscles in the back of our neck can get kind of tight, and the muscles in the front of our neck can get kind of lazy and stretched out, all right? So the deep neck flexor muscles are super important. Even people that don't spend a ton of time on the bike, those of us that spend a lot of time at a desk like this, right, with chicken neck, I am definitely guilty of that. I find myself having to hold my head back during the day when I'm at my computer. But if we're like this, we've got that forward head posture. Again, we're going to get those kind of stretched out, long, lazy, deep neck flexor muscles. So what I want to do is show you guys a couple of exercises for the deep neck flexors specifically. So I can either just demonstrate it, and you guys can do it later, or if you guys have a space to move, you can do it with me. So what you're going to need is, all right, you're going to need a hand towel, one that's kind of like this, and you want to fold it the long way, hot dog, not hamburger, and then you're going to roll it up. And depending on the size of your body and your neck, you may or may not need to roll it up the whole way. Intuitively, I feel like this is going to be kind of thick for my neck, so if it is, then you just unroll it a little bit, because you want the roll. I'm gonna lay on the ground here and demonstrate it for you guys, but essentially you want the roll to go right behind your neck, such that it's going to support your neck, but it's not going to be so thick that it's going to lift your head off the ground. Okay. So let's see. gonna bring you down here. All right. Can you see me? Yeah. All right, so I've got my towel rolled up. I'm gonna stick it behind my neck. That's about a little too big. There we go. Okay. So my neck feels supported by the towel, but my head, the back of my head is still on the ground. All right. And then the movement that you're gonna do, and this is really key, you're going to tuck your chin like you're making a double chin, but the back of your head should stay firmly planted on the ground. Okay, so you're not lifting your head up, because if you start lifting your head up, you're going to use other muscles besides your deep neck flexors. Okay, especially if our deep neck flexors are weak, there are other muscles that can come in and compensate if we lift our head up off the ground, and then the deep neck flexors just do nothing, which doesn't help us. So you're going to keep your head on the ground and just tuck your chin, make a double chin, just rotate, and then you're just going to hold that. And that is activating those deep neck flexor muscles. And what I like to do, so I'm all about like connecting the brain and the body. That's kind of my specialty in my work, and I found that it's really effective for pretty much everything. And so what I would recommend doing is, as you do that chin tuck and the hold, you close your eyes. This might sound funny, but I want you to put your brain inside your neck, okay? So visualize your neck muscles and visualize them shortening and contracting. And as you hold the contraction, take some nice, deep, slow breaths and think about directing that oxygen to your neck. All right, so you're essentially feeding with oxygen those muscles that are working in that moment that you're doing that exercise. So you're going to close your eyes and you're going to imagine your neck flexors, and you're going to take 5 or so deep breaths, and then you're going to relax. Okay, and then you can, do that as many times as you want. You can do it 3 times, you can do it 10 times. I don't know that I do it more than 10 times at a time right away. But so 2 things, you're strengthening those deep neck flexors, and then you're also increasing the neuromuscular connection between your brain and that area of your body. And as we do that, we're rewiring our brains to listen and talk to our body better, so that overall we have a better chance of preventing injury and healing our body and just being able to move in proper alignment. So every, even if it's not necessarily a motor control activity, I really love the idea of, putting our brain inside the area of the muscle that we're trying to activate. So that is the first activity. It's super simple. And then the progression from that is to do it standing and to put the towel roll against the wall behind your neck. And you're just gonna, have your back against the wall and your feet a couple feet away from the wall. And you're gonna just do the same thing. You're gonna tuck your chin, and you're just going to think about almost squishing the towel into the wall with the back of your neck, but you don't want your head to, again, come away from the wall. So alignment really makes a big difference here. Let me see if I can show you. You guys get to see the inside of my house. It's kind of funny. And I'm wearing slippers. That's cool. Okay. Ooh, very bright right there. Let's try a different wall. Okay. There we go. We've got the door. Okay. So I'm standing against this door here in this wall. And again, going to put the towel behind my head. So yeah, you guys can try it with me. And then just going to make sure the back of my head's against the wall, and my feet are just about maybe a foot or so away from the wall. So my back and my pelvis are just kind of resting gently against the wall. And then same thing, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to put my brain inside my neck. And then I'm just going to tuck my chin down. I'm going to talk funny because I'm making a double chin. And then just gently pulling my neck back into the towel. And just checking in and making sure that the back of my head is still against the wall. I'm just taking some deep breaths while you hold that contraction. And you can even take your fingers and put them on the front of your neck and just feel those muscles engaging. And then relax. So a progression from that, and this is especially relevant for us cyclists and mountain bikers, is to do that same movement. So the chin tuck and the retracting the neck, pushing the tail back. And then once you've got that, take your shoulder blades and squeeze them down your back like you're going to put them in your back pockets. And think about opening your collarbones like you're going to spread your wings, okay? Or maybe like rolling the points of your shoulders outwards. So now I'm tucking my chin. My head is still against the wall. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades into the wall down my back. Breathing. And I think it's important to hold it just long enough so that you can mentally check in with each area of your body that's engaging. So I'm checking in with my neck, checking in with the back of my head, checking in with my shoulder blade muscles, then checking in with my upper traps and shoulders and making sure that these aren't coming up to my ears, okay? So sometimes when we first start working with our shoulder blades, those upper traps kick in because they're just kind of trained to kick in all of the time. So we're trying to kind of detrain them a little bit. So checking in there as well. And then relax and shake it out. I like to, between sets of motor control activities, I like to kind of stop and just like shake my body out a little bit because that kind of resets the nervous system as well. That's something that has been proven in a lot of trauma research in neuroscience and psychology is that like with animals, you know, if a deer is running from a mountain lion and the deer gets away, in order to keep that deer from storing that trauma in its nervous system, it shakes, and that helps to clear that. And so it doesn't even have to be trauma. It can be any experience, including just doing an exercise. So if we're doing an exercise and, you know, we're doing something that we really want our body to learn, it's good to kind of reset the nervous system and then try it again. Because then every time we do the activity, we're retraining, 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 retraining. And then that builds that pattern that every time you know, tell your neck to retract, you're going to fire your deep neck flexors. Every time you tell your shoulder blades to pull down into your back pockets, you're activating those scapular stabilizer muscles. So that's a little heady, but the nervous system is a little heady because our brains are head. So hopefully you get the mind. Okay, so those are a couple of my favorite exercises for neck stabilization and neck strength. And another one that I really love specifically for biking, and this does incorporate a little bit of neck, but this is more, again, that scapular stabilization, is an exercise called push-up plus. Okay, so it's like a push-up, but then you have something added on at the end. And I like to have people do this on the wall because usually most of us, including myself, are not strong enough in our upper bodies, especially right away, to do this exercise with correct alignment on the floor. And the plus brings in a muscle called the serratus anterior, which is a muscle that's like in our armpit basically, and then kind of wraps around down into our ribs. And what that muscle does is it stabilizes our upper quarter, so our shoulder blades, shoulder, neck, when our hands are above shoulder height, okay? So when we're on the bike, they're typically not above shoulder height, like they're here, but that's close. So like if I'm here on my bike and all of a sudden I stand upright, I'm basically at shoulder height, all right? So unless you're super upright on your bike and you're way down here, serratus anterior is involved with stabilizing the upper quarter when you're riding on your bike. If you're doing any hike-a-bike and you're like carrying your bike or picking your bike up, or you're like picking up your bike to put it on your car, you're definitely needing serratus anterior stability. So let's do the push-up plus on the wall. And the best way to do this, I'm trying to make you guys seasick or anything, following me around. Okay. It needs to get dark outside, so I don't have that bright light shining at me. Let's see. Oh, here's another wall. Let's use this one. This is funny. This is the first time in 6 years that I've had a house, and I'm usually doing all this stuff on my van, and I think it's a lot easier on a van. Okay, so, oh, that's pretty good there. All right, so what you're gonna do is you wanna put your hands on the wall and you want your fingertips to be about even with your shoulders. You don't want them way up here, you don't want them way down here, you want them just about even with your shoulders. And you want them about as wide as they would be on your mountain bike handlebars, okay? Or your roadie, as wide as they are on your road bike handlebars. Either way, you can do both, but make it functional. And then what you're gonna do is you're going to pull your shoulder blades gently down your back, and you're going to do a push-up. So you're going to go down and up, and then you're going to push out. So that's the plus part, okay? So you're not going to push away from the wall with your fingertips. You're going to keep your palms on the wall because that pushing out is activating that serratus anterior, okay? So we've got down, up, out. And you can hold that out part and really feel that. You should feel that kind of in here, pushing your body away from your hands on the wall. Down, up, out. So there are some other exercises that do serratus as well. There is one called supine punches where you can lay on your back. So if you imagine I'm laying on my back and you have your arms in the air and you're pushing up like this. But I prefer the wall one because as mountain bikers and cyclists, our hands are fixed to the bars, right? Our hands aren't like floating out in front of us. If you're a paddler, I do recommend doing that stabilization exercise, laying on your back, because as a paddler, you're dealing with, you know, a paddle that's like waving through the air and having to control that. But as a mountain biker, our hands are on our bars and they're weight bearing. So having our hands on the wall makes it more functional because it's weight bearing like we would be on our mountain bike. Once the wall gets easy, you can do it on like the arm of a chair. So here's the arm of the chair, and, or here's, I'll just do it on the table right next to me. Let's see. So here's the table. Oh, it's gonna be way too close. Okay. All right. So same thing on the table. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna not look at you. Down, up, out, and back to start. Okay, we'll do it again. Down. Make sure when you're down, you're not doing this. Okay, shoulder blades pull down your back. Up, out, back. Okay. Another way that I really like to do that one is on a stability ball. So if you have one of those like big physio balls, you can either put the ball on the wall and put your hands on the ball. One thing that I like to do, although make sure you're not in a place where you could hurt yourself if you do this, is I have a pair of mountain bike handlebars, and I like to put the handlebars against the ball that's against the wall, so that I'm actually holding on to mountain bike handlebars. And so I did this when I was recovering from my shoulder surgery back in 2013. If you can imagine a pair of handlebars smushed up against the ball, smushed up against the wall, you can do the push-up plus, but you can also just do some like rocking, you can do some pushing, you can do stability activities with that. And, you know, all of those things are going to be good not only for your serratus anterior, but for all of the muscles in your shoulders, your shoulder blades, your chest, and your neck. So those functional stabilization type activities where your hands are fixed to something like they would be on a bike are really, really good for strengthening your neck and your shoulder blades and all that stuff. Okay. Whew. So that's stability. The last component of the functional, almost lost my word. The last component of the functional problem with neck pain is mobility. So I'm going to drop a research fact on you all right now. So it has been proven that in the majority of people that have headaches that are not migraines, right? Migraines are a different animal. But in the majority of people that have headaches that are not migraines, the second cervical vertebrae is hypomobile, meaning it does not move enough. So that's something that's been proven in the research, and that's something that I found when I used to be in private practice as a physical therapist and did a lot of manual work on people that had headaches and neck pain, that when I would manually mobilize their second cervical vertebrae and then have them do mobility work on that as well to carry it over, that their headaches changed like that. And it was really, really effective. Now, you know, people that have had concussions, people that have, you know, obviously like typically neck pain, headaches are multifactorial, but the one common thing between all people that had headaches across the board in this research was a stiff C2 that wasn't moving enough. So that chin tuck exercise on the towel roll, that also is really helpful for mobility. It's not just for stability of the deep neck flexors, although that's primarily what it is. You have a nice tight little towel roll and you're doing that exercise on the towel roll, you are mobilizing the vertebrae and the joints as well. That is doubly a really good exercise to do. Another good one to do for mobility is literally just like going through the range of motion of your head and neck. So dropping your head down and then gently extending it. And then side bending, so ear to shoulder, and then rotation, looking over one shoulder, coming back to center, looking over the other shoulder. So just doing that kind of gentle mobility. You can also do gentle rolls. So neck rolls kind of got a bad rap back in the 80s, actually, I don't even know, but they used to have a bad rap. And the reason that they did is because people were doing them kind of fast and mindlessly, which will give any activity a bad rap because that's a really good way to hurt yourself. So as you do neck rolls, just be really mindful of how it feels and go really slow. And if you get sharp pain, do a little bit less of a movement and see if the pain subsides. So do maybe a smaller neck roll. Just start with like gentle itty bitty neck circles. And then see if you can go a little bit bigger. And if you get to that pain point, oops, chase the pain, don't catch it. Make your circle smaller again, okay? And so, you know, that's a good way to work on your neck mobility as well. And then most of you probably know this stretch, but in case you don't, I'm gonna teach you because I love it. Basically all you do is you take one hand and you either just put it behind your back or you sit on it. So right now I'm sitting on my left hand. And then with my head, I am tipping my ear towards, woohoo, I feel that, towards my opposite shoulder. And you should feel a stretch going down your neck like this, okay? And if you feel a good stretch already, then you can just stop there and hang out. And again, I like to have people close their eyes and breathe oxygen into that area and visualize this muscle in your neck like elongating and stretching. And if you feel like you want a little bit more, you can bring your hand up over your head and just give some gentle traction on that. But this is a stretch where a lot of people overstretch because they think that they are supposed to or they think that they have to. Okay, so stretching should always feel good. It should never feel like pain. So if this feels good, do it. If it does not, don't do it. And then what you want to do is you simply tip your head, like your nose, towards your armpit, like you're going to smell your own armpit. And then again, just hang your head down, and that changes the angle of the stretch to more of the back of your neck. So that levator scapula muscle that's in the back of your neck, some of your paraspinals. The first one was for trapezius. So you have your nose and your armpit. And again, relax and breathe into that muscle. I meet a lot of people who do a lot of stretching, but they don't actually relax when they're stretching. They're like holding their breath, or they're punching their muscle, or you know, they're just not being mindful of actually relaxing, and that's actually kind of counterproductive. So when you're stretching, just take some deep breaths and focus on relaxing that muscle and letting it lengthen. And then again, same thing, if you feel like you want to try it, you can bring your hand up to your head and give some traction on your neck. This feels really amazing to me right now. And same thing, breathe into it. And if you notice that, you know, as you're paying attention to that muscle and you notice that it starts to get a little tweaky, then just, you know, back out of the stretch a little bit. So, you know, pain doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't do something. It sometimes can just mean you have to revise the way that you're doing it. But you should never hold a stretch when it's painful. You should always back out of it and, you know, maybe see where that boundary is. But if you have any sort of pain boundary, you definitely want to back out of that. And if you can't do the stretch or the activity without pain, with all the modifications, then it's not the stretch for you at this time. And there are lots of others. So yeah, so that's a neck stretch that, you know, is pretty common. Most people know it, but it's definitely a really great one for cyclists. Thoracic mobility. Okay, I don't want to miss this. So this is super, super important. Most of us in the world, and especially those of us who ride bikes, have super stiff upper backs, right? And when we're on the bike, like mountain biking is a little bit better because especially for riding technical terrain, we're like pushing the bike and we're moving and everything like that. But road bikers tend to get a little more stiff up here, and people who sit in chairs all day tend to get a little stiff up there. And so in order to be able to put our bike where we want it, have that range of motion in our body and that mobility to move our bike around, and in order to help prevent neck pain, our thoracic spine needs to be pretty mobile. And so one of my favorite ways to do that is to do what I call angel wings and barrel hug mobility. So you're just gonna bring your arms out in front of you like you are hugging a giant barrel, and you're going to like stretch your chest back and your arms forward like you're gonna hug the barrel. Hold that for a few seconds. And then you're going to spread your wings wide and put your chest out and tip your head back as far as it feels good. And then hug the barrel. And then spread your wings. You can do this progression as long as it feels good. I would do probably 10 times in each direction. You don't want to do it fast, but you can hold each position for a while, or you can just kind of flow through slowly. And then what I like to do is lawnmower pole mobility. So like thinking about pulling to start a lawnmower. So reaching down and then coming up, reaching down and coming up. And I like to stabilize with my other hand on my thigh, reaching down, coming up. And same with the other side, stabilizing my right hand on my right thigh, left arm reaches down, pulls up, and reaches down, and pulls up. And then just some straight up side bending and rotation. So just bending to the side. This is something you can also do on your hands and knees. I like doing like cat-cow in yoga, which is hands and knees, you're pushing up and back. So that's the same motion as the barrel hug one. And then you can also kind of move your spine from side to side like that. And then rotation, taking your arms and just rotating one direction and then coming back and then slowly rotating the other and coming back. And with these mobility things, a lot of us that are really stiff in our upper backs, which is most of us, we have too much mobility in our lower backs, right? Because that mobility has to come from somewhere. So in order to not just make these mobility drills go to your lower back, you want to engage your lower abdominals just a little bit. So think about pulling your belly button in towards your spine and engaging those lower abdominals to protect your lower back and to stabilize it so that your movement can come mostly from your upper back. All right. Cool. So that's a rundown on upper back and neck mobility. And I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about. So, you know, just thinking about, again, just a little bit recap, common causes of neck pain, mechanical or functional problems. Mechanical is poor fit of your helmet or too heavy, poor bike fit, or poor body mechanics when riding. We talked about some ways to correct all of those things. Or it's a functional problem, which is, you know, impaired mobility in your neck, shoulders, and upper back, or impaired stability in your neck, shoulders, and upper back, especially those deep neck flexors. We talked about ways to correct that. So hopefully I gave you guys some good things to work on. And like I said, I have this recording that I will give all of you. So I will have to send you an email. If you want this recording, y'all have a pen and paper or something to write something down with, something to write anything down with. Go ahead and write down my, awesome, go ahead and write down my email address, which is Eliza, E-L-I-Z-A, at adventurept.com. And if you shoot me an email and just put in the subject line, mountain bike neck pain, then I will send you, once I get this replay uploaded, I'll send that to you guys. And the other thing that I wanted to let you know about, I actually just launched a new platform. Essentially, it's like a new wellness and performance and rehabilitation center. And it's called the Align Adventure Center. And it is online because I live everywhere. And essentially what it is I am going to teach, and I have a bunch of content in there already. And it's essentially, you know, teaching skills for our body, just kind of like we did today, for our mind, a lot of like nervous system regulation, mindset, mindfulness, integrating mind and body, and life, like how to, kind of like I talked about in the beginning, like how to set up your life to support your adventures and vice versa. And then logistics and skills that we need for going on adventures and doing them successfully. So that is a membership center. The right now I'm doing 2 weeks for free for both memberships. So I have 2 memberships. One is called the community membership, and that's basic. And that's just $9.99 a month. And that gives you access to pretty much all of my bite-sized content in all of those areas. And I'm also doing community calls just like this one. Actually, I'm going to start doing them on the website where, you know, somebody from the center can suggest a topic that they want me to cover. And if nobody has any suggestions, then I'll just, you know, I have a lot of stuff to say. So we'll do a community call where I'll teach something, we'll do a Q&A, and it can be, you know, something like this with the body. It can be something else with adventure, like how to pack your bike packing rig, whatever. And then the premium membership also includes my flagship course, which is called Movement Medicine Foundations. And that's something that I taught last summer over the course of a month, realized it was way too much content to be in a month, and decided to give people the option to do it as a membership where they can just work through the content at their own pace. And in that premium membership, I'm going to be live in there a few times a month for Q&A, for teaching, things like that. And then in addition to the course, I'll be doing, like every quarter, I'll do like a new little mini course that has a theme. So like knee pain for adventure athletes, we can do all sorts of stuff to alleviate knee pain, strengthen our knee, you know, things that affect our knees, things like that. So that's in the premium membership. And currently, because of the opening of the center, I'm doing it at a pretty low price right now, which is $39.99 a month or $349 for the year if you want to commit yearly. But again, 2 weeks free. So if you want to sign up for that for the next 2 weeks and just go through all the content in 2 weeks and cancel, you're welcome to do that also. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. I love teaching this stuff, and I just realized that there's only so many people I can reach when I'm doing just one-on-one coaching. So this is a way for me to do more of this in a group setting. I really love it. So that website, if you want to check it out, is alignadventure.com, ALIGN adventure.com. So yeah. All right. Question time. I know we are at 5:30, so we've been going about an hour, but I'll stick around if any of you guys have any questions about any of the things. Let me know.
I'm gonna ask, I think I asked you on a post, when we're going, you know, like all mountain bikers, they're all advised to look up, look ahead. But sometimes looking ahead, well, I just realized that my visor was too low, but sometimes the angle can really hurt the, just increase the more neck pain with the going down, jarring kind of downhill. So what would be, because some of the coach will say, you have to constantly scan. You cannot just look up all the time. And some people will say, you have to look up all the time. So what would be your coach too? So what would be the good way to look, how far do we look?
Yeah, so you do want to be like looking close and far. You want to be ping-ponging your eyes between 10 feet in front of your wheel and 100 feet in front of your wheel, or however fast you're going. But you don't want to be having to move your head, right? So you should be able to keep your head in the same position and just move your eyes. Because if you're always moving your head, that's pretty hard on your neck. Like, can you imagine, even if you're not riding technical terrain, if you're sitting at your desk and all day you're going like this, like that would suck. Like, you'd have pretty bad neck pain. And so you should be able to just have your head, you know, at a reasonable position where you can see the trail in front of you, and then you just move your eyes up and down. And if your helmet is not allowing you to do that, then, you know, either like seeing your helmet on you at the beginning, I do think it's probably too big for you because it's moving all over on your head. But you can try, if you want to keep that helmet and you do feel like you're able to make it work for you, you can try just pushing the visor up, and that might give you a little bit more vision. But I mean, my honest opinion is that, you know, if you have to tighten the helmet so much that it's giving you like pressure here and headaches in order to keep it from moving around on your head, then it's just the wrong helmet for you. It's either too big or just like the wrong shape or size. You know, I had a lot of helmets that weren't necessarily too big for me. They just didn't fit my head well, and they gave me pressure here and moved all over the place here. So yeah, the helmet search can be frustrating. I did that for a long time. So yeah. Any other questions? Stephanie, hi.
Yes, hello, hi, how are you doing? Okay, I have a big question. I have a really concern. I have a helmet. It's here. It's a really good helmet, but I want to go to full face. So I have like no girls riding, so I keep telling the guys, and they give me like every single opinion. It's really different, but I'm like, okay, I need to know like which one is like the best. But I know everyone, it's a different opinion. But I have to wear glasses. I cannot wear. Always have to wear glasses. I don't want to wear the other glasses because I get like really like here it will go like really how do you say, like
Just like smash
make
your
my
head.
head really bad. And actually I have to have also like because I have like headaches really bad, so I don't want to be really tight. I have to be like loose, but I don't want to really loose. So I don't know which one it could fit better.
And you definitely want a full face?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, you're just gonna have to try a bunch of helmets on. Like it's really like there is no real standard for like how helmets fit or how snug they are on different parts of the head for different people. And I guess it's, you know, it's unfortunate because it's a pain because I literally can't just say, oh, go try this helmet, you know. But it is nice because people like me that have really oddly shaped heads, like there's something out there for me, you know. It's just we have to find it. So, you know, I would go, if I were you, I would like find bike shops that have a bunch of different helmets and just like make a day out of it, or like, you know, schedule time to just go to a bunch of different bike shops and, you know, like have your glasses, like make sure that you have everything that you are going to be wearing your helmet with, and just try a bunch of helmets on and like walk around the bike shop with it and do one of these and one of these, and you know, just make sure. And you know, sometimes we can get a helmet in the shop and it feels fine, and then we take it out on the bike and it doesn't feel so fine after a while. So really think about like how it's going to feel after you've got it, you know, you've had it on for a couple hours. But yeah, that would be my recommendation because they're just so different and everybody's head is just so different and individual. So I wish I could give you a more definite answer.
No, actually, it was fine because I have to wear my glasses. That's the thing. Like I cannot just take it and be like, oh, I will ride without like something in my face.
Yeah, I would just try a bunch on because I wear glasses as well a lot of the time on my bike, and I did have a full face for quite a while, and I was able to wear my glasses with that as well. I didn't like it at the end of the day because it was too big, but I could fit my glasses. So yeah, just try a bunch on. All right, any other questions? Yeah, Susan.
I came here today because I have had, and this is the second time I have a pinched nerve, a double crush, which is on, I don't know which side, C5, C6 and C7. And I had gone through physical therapy, and now that it happened to me again on 2 weeks ago Sunday, and I have been in such pain. So I wanted to come here because I'm trying to figure out, is it the way I'm positioned on the bike? Is it other problems health problems that I have? So thank you for all the information, and any suggestions you can give me, I'm all for it because I've been through extreme pain. Like right now I'm in, but nothing like the first week. It was like excruciating and nothing helps. I have anti-inflammatories, and I went to a chiropractor. That kind of helped. I'd never been through a chiropractor before, so I'm going tomorrow.
I'm glad it helped. Is there something that happened that set it off again, or was it just you were in the middle of a ride or in your desk and just came on? Is there anything?
I rode. It was not that big of a deal riding. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, the next day I just kept going, oh, I feel bad. And then, I took a shingle shot, and then, and that made me real sick. So maybe that's what happened, but it's miserable.
Yeah.
I don't wish that on anybody.
You happen to know if it is a result of a herniated or bulging disc or a joint compression?
Well, they say it's a joint. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I ask is because it's two different mechanisms of injury, and so there's two different courses of treatment for it. So stability and mobility is always a good treatment, like all of the stuff that we talked about already. For any like cause of injury, stability work, mobility work, always important. With a joint compression, typically I wish I had a little vertebrae model here. I don't, but typically during a facet joint compression, it compresses in extension. So when our neck extends like that, you can imagine like this, if this is the back of my neck, this is my vertebrae. As I go into extension, it compresses like this, okay? And that can pinch on the nerves if there's not enough mobility in there. So doing things where you're going into flexion, so bending your head down, opens the joint space like this and gives some relief on the nerve. Now, if you would tell me that it is a disc bulge or a disc herniation, that's actually the opposite, because what happens there is when you flex your neck down and those joints open, picture a little disc in the middle, that disc can go and pop out and then pinch that nerve. It's a different mechanism of injury, opposite treatment in terms of flex extension. But
I can't go back. I can't go back.
Yeah.
Right now,
Okay. So,
I can't go back.
yeah. So that makes sense that it would be a facet compression. And so what I would recommend, aside from the stability and the mobility work, is focusing on mobility in the direction of flexion. So spending some time, can you see me still? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Spending some time just like hanging your head down. And then closing your eyes. So go ahead and do this with me right now. This is something that's good to practice, and all of you can do this if you want. This
Actually,
is really
we're doing it.
perfect. So just hanging your head down, relaxing your shoulders, and then close your eyes. And I'm going to put my head up because I'm talking funny now because my chin's in my chest. And then close your eyes and just take some deep, slow breaths in and out through your nose. And focus on that area in the back of your neck and just visualize what it looks like. So think about your muscles that are back there, and think about your muscles lengthening and stretching out in a really nice and nourishing way. And then think about your spine back there, and think about that spine just like I did with my hands. Think about those vertebrae opening up and just relieving the pressure on those nerves and just creating more space and more mobility in that part of your neck. And as you breathe, just focus on that relaxation and that opening. And you can even imagine that your pain is in there and that your pain has a color, whatever, black or purple or whatever color you want to give it. And you can imagine that color in that area of your neck, and you can imagine it like dissipating, like going, running down your arm and going out your fingertips. This might start getting a little esoteric, but that's a pretty good visualization. It's just like imagining that your pain has like a color or a texture. And then as you breathe, imagine that oxygen flushing that pain out of that area of your neck as your mobility is expanding and as those muscles are stretching. Breathe. And then you can go ahead and bring your head back up. All right. So that is something I would definitely recommend doing. And like our mind is really, really powerful. And not in the way that we can like just think our pain away, right? But like doing the visualization while we're actually doing movement, because so many people do a lot of stretching and mobility work, but they just kind of do it, right? So then you do it, they're tense, their energy isn't focused on what their body needs and how their body moves. And so when you're doing the stretch and when you're doing mobility, if you're breathing and you're really focusing on that area of your body and you're really focusing on making it relaxed, you're really focusing on like visualizing those joints opening and those muscles stretching, you can really start to kind of be in tune with your body and start to listen to what it needs. So that's a pretty powerful exercise that I think will help for sticky joint compression. Other thing you can do is if you don't remember what side it's on, but and then you're kind of rubbing your right side. Is it on the right?
My right side's bothering me, but throughout this whole 2 weeks, the front would hurt, the back would hurt, shoot down one arm. I couldn't lift the other.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what that tells me is that your nervous system is like overreacting. And I know how that is because that is why I wear a helmet post. Because what happens, and I don't know if you looked at my Instagram stories about this, but like when we have pain, and especially when that pain becomes chronic, like our body is getting signals like slowly over time, and even like 2 weeks, like 2 weeks of like being in pain, and even, with getting that shot, that's a shock to your system because that's like a substance that your body is not used to. And like, yes, it's good for you, but doesn't mean that it's still not a shock to your system. So all of those factors can combine, and as you're having pain, what happens is our body tenses up to kind of protect, and it does that subconsciously. And, you know, it's great that our body has protective mechanisms, because if you were to, like, you know, crash your bike and your body like rolls in a ball, you know, like instinctively rolls in a ball to protect, like that's great. But if the pain is continuing over time and you don't have that danger anymore, like you're sitting in a chair, you're not crashing your bike right now, but your body, your nervous system doesn't know that. And so your body sends your brain pain signals, and then your brain sends pain signals back to your body time. That can add up. Next thing you know, like, you know, maybe it started on the joint in your neck, but next thing you know, you've got pain going down your arms and in your chest and in your back and in your head, and it's just everywhere, right? And that's your nervous system basically freaking out and being like, oh my God, what do I do? Pain everywhere. So that breathing exercise is really, 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 really useful for that kind of thing. And it's literally, and even you can do it like laying in bed at night or in the morning, whether or not you stretch the neck. Something I've been doing actually for my neck recently is I will do that little chin tuck on the towel roll exercise in the morning, and then I'll just relax on the towel roll, and I'll close my eyes, and I'll just focus on breathing and relaxing all of the muscles in my body. So it's almost like meditation, only instead of like, you know, zoning out or whatever, I'm going into my body, and I'm really focusing on like relaxing my blades, relaxing my arms, like I scan every area of my body, and I consciously relax that area of the body. And in doing that, so deep, slow breaths in and out through your nose, as deep as you can, what that does is it stimulates a nerve called the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest and, you know, the peaceful response, essentially like in the animal world, whereas the sympathetic nervous system is fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what's happening in your body right now, because your nervous system is firing on all cylinders, giving you these pain signals. So even if you don't feel it like mentally and emotionally, like, you know, you're like freaking out, your body is freaking out because it's having that that stimulus. And so taking those deep, slow breaths and closing your eyes and going into your body and focusing on relaxation, that physiologically detones your nervous system and brings it back into that more relaxed state. If you do that consistently over time, that can help bring that nervous system down and make it not be firing all over the place and giving you a bunch of pain. So that's what I'd recommend for that.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? I can be really long-winded. I'm sorry, you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. I obviously love this stuff. Okay, well, there are no more questions. I will bid you adieu. Make sure to shoot me an email for the recording of this, because that was a lot of information, and I want you guys to be able to access it. And then, you know, if you're interested, check out my Align Adventure site and come join me for more of these chats. So that'd be awesome. All right, everybody, thank you for coming. And everybody listening to the recording later, thank you for listening. I'm trying to move my mouse and it's not plugged in. All right, y'all, have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Have a good day or night. Bye.
Bye.